morning, I'm going to read from Matthew 22, verses 34 to 40. Please bear with me. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest? He said to him, you shall love thy Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbors as yourselves. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophecies. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I just wanted to begin this morning by saying, in case any of you think now that I'm a thief, that is not the case. This little prayer hangs on my refrigerator every morning, and when I wake up to begin to pack lunches and make breakfast, and every night as I make sure the dishes are in the dishwasher and clean the counters, I see this prayer and I pray it. So if you will, join me in praying this prayer of St. Ignatius of Loyola. Dearest Lord, teach me to be generous. Teach me to serve you as you deserve, to give and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not ask for reward, except to know that I am doing your will. Amen. Friends, this is a powerful little prayer. It reminds me that we are in this season of giving, a season of love. We're wrapping up our stewardship campaign in which you have been instructed to vote with your dollars, in part as a sign of our love for this community. Unfortunately, while this little prayer might have worked not long ago, and while at times I still need to pray it, I think it's a little problematic. And so I'm throwing it out. Sometimes we're told we need to give, and when you have nothing left to give, you are to give more. Sometimes there is some really hard stuff happening in our life. And to hear that we are to fight and not to heed the wounds is hard. And I think there's perhaps something missing in that prayer for those of us in the 21st century. When Jesus uses the word love in the Great Commandment, there is a lot more to it than the modern Christian notion to give and give and give. It is God's call to us to be the love in the world, not some idealized, romanticized form of the word love. But God calls us to be the love that is made known through the gospel message, that is made known through Christ. It is here in just a few lines that Jesus explains what I consider to be the entire underlying theme of the Scriptures, which apparently, and much to the dismay of the Pharisees, describes and does not prescribe how we are to be in the world. The funny thing is the Pharisees don't get that. They only care about the law, the law, the law. But for Jesus, law and gospel are more or less one and the same. Jesus proclaims that the law actually describes just how we are to be in this world. We are to be the love in the world. But not any old type of love. Jesus is quite specific about this. He points out 3 types of love. 1, we are to be in relationship with God. We are to be in love with God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your mind and with all your soul. 2, we are to be in relationship with others, in community, and to love our neighbors. But 3, and this is the part that we most often gloss over, Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. We are to be in relationship with ourselves in such a way as to love the entirety of our being, for no other reason than because. Stanley Hauerwas, and for all of those who aren't aware, Stanley Hauerwas wrote a commentary on Matthew. Another thing, and there seems to be a little bit of controversy about this fact in the congregation, but according to Erin Hicks, and I don't know if she's here this morning, she says, once a Methodist, always a Methodist, so we'll still claim Stanley Hauerwas as Methodist, no matter what he says to the students at Duke. But he says, we must learn to love ourselves as God has loved us. This is the real challenge to Christians. This is the real challenge of the Great Commandment to us as Christians. Trey points out to us every Sunday that we are continually getting this message that we haven't produced enough, we haven't accomplished enough. We continually get the message that we are somehow lacking. But this text is Jesus' commandment to us all that in order to love others fully, we must love ourselves. Not on our own terms, when I've accomplished this task or when I've done something really good, but we must love ourselves as God has loved us. Let's put it this way. Last weekend, I was walking into the bathroom in our home, only to find that my purse is somehow in the shower. Lily? My purse is in the shower. Oh yeah, Mom, I put it there. Imagine if then I said, okay, Lily, because you have put my purse in the shower, now I'm going to love you less. You know how I cut your sandwiches with those little cookie cutters every morning in shapes of dinosaurs and glass slippers? Well, tomorrow you're getting triangles. That's it. This is ridiculous. Of course, I'm going to continue loving Lily just as I loved her the day before, no matter how many times she puts my purse in the shower, no matter how soggy my wallet is. And when we mess up, God doesn't love us less. But for some reason, when I get anything less than a B on a paper, or I do something that, I don't know, I'm filled with self-content. And I refuse to love myself because it doesn't seem to suit me. In the 21st century, however, love of self is generally assumed. There's this claim of modern biology that states we almost always seek our own flourishing, unless for some reason, I'm going to read this part, by sacrificing our own flourishing, we promote the flourishing of the whole. This is best demonstrated in that if I throw a baseball, you duck. When you're hungry, you eat. But I don't think self-preservation is what Jesus means when he commands us to love ourselves. Likewise, he doesn't mean to be in love with oneself as one who is vain or arrogant or boastful. Last week, I was rushing after class to pick up Lily from school. And I always have this very clear goal in mind. I need to get to Lily in the fastest way possible, the most direct route, of course abiding by every legality and speed limit. But in that way, my intention is always to get to spend the maximum amount of time with her. But last Thursday, as I'm rushing to pick up Lily from school, I park my car, I get into the building, I put my handle on the door into her after-school classroom. And another parent stops me. And he says, "What are you doing? Aren't you going to watch?" And you have to understand there are these one-way observation windows into every classroom. So parents can stand and look at their children in the room and the children can't see them back. I said to him, "Of course not. She's been here since 8:30 in the morning. It is now 5:30 in the evening. I want to spend time with her. This is my baby." And he said, "I get that. I understand. But I just can't help and stop and watch for even a moment." So I go over to him and I stand at the window. And you can just see this. He watches his daughter, he points her out to me in the classroom. And you can just see this father beaming with awe for the child in the room. His delight for this little girl exudes from his body, and all I can do is help but notice that this child is doing nothing spectacular. She's maybe coloring at the table, certainly out of the lines. Her shoes are untied, her hair is unkept. But her dad is just beaming with awe of her. I think God's love for us is like this father's love for that little girl. Regardless of her messy pigtails, he is so captivated by her that he is just beaming for no other reason than because. Not because we accomplished some tremendous feat, not because we even color inside the lines, but God is just quite inexplicably beaming with awe for you for no other reason than because. God's love is not unlike the parent rushing to the door to spend time with her child, because God continues to pursue us, pursue a deep relationship with us, relentlessly. And now God commands the same kind of love of us for ourselves, that we are to delight in our own existence for no other reason than merely because, and to relentlessly seek to know ourselves more fully as God's creation. We've been talking about this question, how is it with your soul? And I think we might rephrase that to say, have you loved yourself today on your own account, on your own terms, or on God's terms? God delights in you today and every day. God is the parent, beaming with awe for her child. This is how we are to love ourselves. Friends, there is more to stewardship than a campaign than putting money in the plate every Sunday. There is more to stewardship than offering your time and talents at church functions. Love of God, of our neighbor, of ourselves, is stewardship. It is precisely how we care for creation, how we care for our community as the church, as KUMC. But the real challenge of the Great Commandment is that if we are not rightly beaming at our own existence, we cannot rightly love others. And we cannot rightly give our offering on Sunday morning. If I am practicing self-content, if I'm only honoring my own goodness when it seems fitting, then I only love myself on my own terms. This is the crux of the gospel message. God became human, died on a cross, because God is inexplicably beaming with awe for God's creation, for you. If we are to live out our Christian calling to love God and neighbor, to be the church that God has called us to be, we must practice first on ourselves. Loving not in the way that is convenient or makes sense. Loving not only the parts that get the display on social media, but loving the untied shoes and the unkept hair, the dark part of our lives that don't get shared. So how is it with your soul? Are you loving well?